Hey there, lovely souls. Welcome to my channel. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Serenity, and you've landed on Magnetize Official, where we dive into all things life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. Hey there. The universe operates on the law of attraction, which is a bit like a magnet. Similar energies attract each other. It's kind of like gravity in that sense. This idea was crafted by the universe as a learning tool, almost like a hologram. I like to call it the law of mirroring, because that's exactly how it works. Think of it as source consciousness projecting itself into this dimension, and whatever is inside that projection gets reflected externally, just like an image on a screen. The idea is that by observing an external reflection of our internal vibrations, we can gain greater awareness. This awareness sparks new desires, which in turn advances our consciousness and helps the source integrate its own unconscious. In a universe governed by the law of attraction, we can only interact with things that match our own vibrations. All right, let's break it down. Imagine you're someone struggling with low self-esteem. In that state, you won't naturally attract situations or people that boost your confidence. Instead, your life reflects back circumstances that match your low self-esteem vibe. The cool part is, this setup is designed to push you towards desiring higher self-esteem. So as you observe those low confidence vibes around you, you start craving that boost in self-esteem. That desire nudges you towards seeking out experiences that elevate your confidence and ultimately leads to your growth in that direction. You know, having really delved into the law of attraction and become aware of its workings, something fascinating is unfolding in the universe right now. We're actually yearning for a whole new set of rules to shape our reality. It's like we're crafting a fresh time-space setup, different from the one we're used to under the law of attraction. And get this, our current reality, ruled by the law of attraction, couldn't exist without previous laws paving the way for it. So, through our experiences with the law of attraction, we're in the process of birthing a totally new time-space reality, one that operates outside the bounds of the law of attraction. All right, why the push for a new rulebook in the universe? Well, it's because those of us who've clocked onto the law of attraction are feeling the contrast it brings. And let's be real, when you start bumping into the rough edges of the law of attraction, you can't help but think, screw this, we need something new. Absolutely. Those of us who have truly immersed ourselves in understanding the law of attraction are starting to feel the stark differences it brings about. And when faced with those contrasts, it's only natural to develop a sentiment along the lines of, forget this, we're ready for something fresh and different. Let me break it down for you. Imagine you're a young girl who finds herself in a situation where she's experiencing abuse. Now, that trauma becomes a part of your vibration, shaping your reality. Instead of attracting healing or positivity, what ends up coming your way? More trauma. So even though what you truly need is love and care, you're stuck in this cycle of attracting more and more trauma. From the perspective of the law of attraction, it might seem fair. It's simply reflecting back what's already inside you, in the hopes of spurring growth. But in reality, it feels pretty lousy, doesn't it? Absolutely. It's like being trapped in a vicious cycle. Despite desperately needing love and tenderness, you find yourself continually drawn to experiences that reinforce the trauma you're already carrying. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially when you realize that the universe is just reflecting back what's already inside you, with the intention of nudging you towards growth. But man, it sure doesn't feel fair when you're stuck in the thick of it. You know, I've been around the block, but I've never seen a law throw folks into a downward spiral quite like the law of attraction does. Picture this, you're hurting, so naturally you start attracting more of what hurts, which only ramps up the pain vibe. And guess what? That heightened vibration attracts even more pain your way, plunging you deeper into the cycle. Need I say more? It's like being caught in a twisted dance with pain, isn't it? The more you hurt, the more you attract things that hurt, which just cranks up the volume on your suffering. And before you know it, you're stuck in this relentless loop of pain, begetting more pain. It's enough to make you want to throw your hands up and say, "Seriously, universe?" All right, let me lay it out for you. There are loads of reasons why I think the law of attraction isn't all it's cracked up to be, but the biggie for me is this. Within the community that's clued in on the law of attraction, it's created its own special kind of mess. Sure, the law itself is real, but our shaky grasp of its complexities has turned the spiritual scene into a bit of a nightmare. It's enough to make you want to bolt for the hills, screaming. Here's the thing. When folks first catch wind of the law of attraction but don't dive deep enough, they tend to use it as an excuse to bypass real issues. And let me tell you, spiritual bypassing is hands down one of the most infuriating things out there. It hurts people, plain and simple. Trust me, it's a doozy. It's like a tangled web we've spun ourselves into. See? Within the circles where folks are clued in on the law of attraction, things have gotten messy. Sure, the law itself is legit, but our shaky understanding of its ins and outs has turned our spiritual community into a bit of a nightmare. It's enough to make you want to run for cover. Here's the kicker. When people only scratch the surface of the law of attraction, they often use it as an excuse to sidestep real issues. And let me tell you, spiritual bypassing is not only annoying, it's downright harmful. It's like slapping a Band-Aid on a broken bone. It just doesn't cut it. Trust me, it's a wild ride. The blame assumption. It's like this dark cloud looming over the community of folks who've clocked onto the law of attraction. So, what exactly is this blame assumption? Well, it's the idea that if you grasp the law of attraction, you're automatically signing up to shoulder the blame for anything that goes wrong in your life. It's this notion that because the universe acts like a mirror, if something crappy happens to you, it's all on you. It's like being handed a guilt trip on a silver platter. Take a moment to consider the weight of this belief, that if we're truly mastering our thoughts and emotions, our lives should be nothing but sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. Anything less, and we must be messing up somehow. Look at how quick the blame game starts in the law of attraction community when someone shares, "I've been diagnosed with cancer." Suddenly it's like a spotlight turns on them, and everyone starts asking, "What did you do to attract that?" Sure, the law of attraction is real, but pointing fingers and laying blame when something negative happens serves no purpose. It's basically just wrapping judgment in a spiritual package. And let's face it, it shows a pretty surface-level understanding of how the law of attraction truly operates. Let's clear things up a bit. As you journey towards greater awareness, it's helpful to understand that if something unwanted crops up in your external reality, it likely mirrors something within you that needs attention. A hidden hurt, perhaps. This understanding is empowering because it means you have the power to change your reality as a conscious creator. However, it's essential to realize that this isn't always the whole story, especially in moments where you've pulled out all the stops and still find yourself facing challenges. Imagine trying every tip and trick from every spiritual teacher you've ever come across to improve a situation, only to find things getting worse. You've poured your heart into healing, done the deep dive into shadow work, processed every emotion, and stayed relentlessly positive, yet you're still stuck in the same old rut. It's a clear sign that there's more to the story than meets the eye. When you've tried everything to turn a situation around and it just keeps going downhill, it's easy to feel like you're spiraling out of control. As a believer in the law of attraction, you might find yourself stuck in a loop of self-doubt, asking, "What am I missing? If I were truly on track or fully healed, this wouldn't be happening." But here's the crucial moment. It's time to hit the brakes on that negative thought train and recognize something important. Here's the deal when we're tuned into the law of attraction. We often tell ourselves this story that if we're using our thoughts and feelings correctly, big keyword there, nothing unwanted should be showing up in our lives. And if it does, well, that's a red flag that there's some internal stuff that needs fixing ASAP. We convince ourselves that once we've healed whatever's ailing us, poof, the problem will vanish into thin air. But here's the kicker. We end up fighting tooth and nail against anything we label as unwanted, and that resistance is what really ramps up our suffering. What we sometimes miss is that the law of attraction is a lot more nuanced than that. See, when we step into this reality, we're essentially taking on two perspectives. There's our eternal self, soul perspective, or higher self on one end, and on the other, there's us, projected into this physical dimension. Picture this. When you enter this life, you're essentially becoming a temporal self, while your larger eternal self still exists. So, you're operating from two different points of view. But here's the kicker. Both of these perspectives are still affected by the law of attraction. It's like the law of attraction is responding to both sides of the coin, and as a result, you'll encounter experiences in your life that reflect the vibrations of both perspectives. Think of it like this. Your two perspectives are in constant conversation. As you navigate your everyday life from your earthly viewpoint, you're essentially sending feedback to your higher self about what you want. And because this higher perspective is super pure in its desires, it starts pulling in anything that matches those wishes. Now, your earthly self can either resist or go with the flow, but for the sake of this chat, let's focus on the fact that you'll attract things into your reality that align with what you've been wanting. All right. Let's dive into the crux of the matter. Your higher self and your earthly self don't always see eye to eye on what you need and want. Your earthly self might shout, "I crave love more than anything." But from the higher perspective, the path to finding that love might involve first understanding what love isn't, so you can truly grasp what it is and move towards it. So what does it do? It draws in experiences that might not feel very loving at first glance. Here's the kicker. The stuff our higher self is drawing into our lives, perfectly aligned with our desires, might seem like a total flop from our earthly viewpoint. We struggle to wrap our heads around this as adults. How can we attract something unpleasant or what our earthly self labels as unwanted when we're supposedly in sync with our desires? Well, funny enough, it might just be exactly what we need. And strangely enough, we get this concept when it comes to entering this life. Let's break it down. When your higher self makes the call to dive into life and sets an intention, like, "I want to grasp the concept of freedom," it's willing to experience the opposite, imprisonment, to truly understand what freedom means. Makes sense, right? We've seen it happen with plenty of enlightened folks who've had rough childhoods. But would you ever look at one of them and say, "Hey, you attracted all that junk in your past because you were off track"? Absolutely not. There's more to it than that. Their higher self was pulling in those tough experiences, which we might see as negative, because it was the path to fulfilling their desire. Here's the thing. Nobody gets a pass from this kind of self-criticism in the law of attraction community. It's like this unwritten rule that if anything unwanted or uncomfortable crops up in your life, you must be messing up your vibes somehow. Let me share a personal story to drive this home. Not long ago, I found myself tangled up in a messy court situation. And what did I, as a card-carrying member of the Law of Attraction Club, do? I immediately started beating myself up, thinking, "Oh no, there must be some deep-seated issue within me causing this. I've got to dig it out and fix it, or else things will just keep going downhill." Then, something clicked. After diving deep into my healing journey, there was a breakthrough in the court case. It was like a light bulb moment. I realized that the case was about something entirely different than what I initially thought. And you know what? Once I saw the bigger picture, I was actually excited to be a part of it. It aligned perfectly with the purpose I've chosen for this life. Suddenly, it all made sense. I wasn't meant to manifest my way out of the court situation. I was meant to be right in the thick of it. And with that realization came a profound understanding. Here's the kicker. My earthly self might have seen the court case as unwanted. Sure, I did a ton of healing because of it. But here's the twist. It was still a manifestation. It was a perfect match to my higher self, which knew that standing up for myself and aligning with my purpose would come through facing that court case head-on, not by avoiding it. The truth is, the court case aligned perfectly with what I truly desired, but I couldn't see it because I was too busy thinking, if I'm doing everything right, this shouldn't be happening. I was stuck in this narrow view of how my life should look, and let me tell you, a court case definitely didn't fit into that picture. It fell squarely into the unwanted category. Imagine if labeling something as not good was actually a misjudgment. What if the very things you've been longing for and striving towards with all your law of attraction techniques were wrapped up in something you considered unwanted? What if it was the hidden gem, the diamond in the rough? What if, from your earthly viewpoint, something seemed bad, but from your higher self's perspective, it was actually incredibly good? Let's talk about karma in a whole new light. I know I once made a video saying, karma doesn't exist. But what I meant was the version of karma where people believe it's about carrying baggage from past lives and facing divine punishment. That kind of karma? Total hogwash, if you ask me. But here's the real deal with karma. It's exactly what we're diving into today. It's about the point of attraction set by your higher self, drawing experiences into your life that might not seem all rainbows and sunshine from your earthly perspective. But guess what? These experiences hold the very keys to what your earthly self has been yearning for. And as you go along, you start sensing this feeling of destiny, this pull towards certain things. It's like you're being drawn in by the gravitational force of your eternal self's desires. And no matter what you try, you can't shake that feeling of being pulled towards those experiences, even if you'd rather steer clear of them. Let me lay it out for you straight. If you tackle the belief that you're stuck in a circumstance because of some unresolved issue within you, chances are you'll either see that circumstance magically resolve itself, or you'll gain a newfound understanding of how it's actually aligned with what you've been seeking. But here's the kicker. Saying, everything happens for a reason can sometimes be a cop-out, an easy way to dodge the responsibility of consciously creating your life, facing your shadows, and going through the healing process. Avoiding responsibilities can create issues, but becoming overly fixated on controlling every aspect of our lives through the law of attraction can be just as harmful. In these situations, adopting the perspective of everything happens for a reason can offer valuable insights. Relying too heavily on the law of attraction to micromanage our reality can blind us to the bigger picture. We might miss the deeper meanings behind the situations we encounter. Consider this. The tough situation you're facing might not be your fault at all. It could be exactly what you've been yearning for, a match to your desires from your higher self's perspective. You just haven't connected the dots yet. So, let's put an end to using your understanding of the law of attraction to beat yourself up. Stop using it to convince yourself that there's something inherently wrong or out of alignment with you. Quit adding self-blame to already difficult circumstances in your life. And please, stop telling yourself that if you were truly aligned, you wouldn't be dealing with these challenges. It's time to break free from the cycle of self-doubt and recognize the power within you. Here's the scoop. When you're faced with something you wish wasn't happening, it doesn't necessarily mean something's gone wrong. It's more likely that you're just resisting it because you can't see how it fits into the grand scheme of things yet. Until we find ourselves in a whole new reality, governed by different laws, we're stuck in this universe where the law of attraction calls the shots. But don't be fooled into thinking it's all black and white. Sure, it's simple, but not that simple. What's unfolding in your life right now? Well, guess what? It's happening because it's supposed to, so instead of fighting against it, why not try embracing it? With confidence, I affirm my competence, intelligence, and abilities. I recognize my own self-worth and cherish my health and happiness. Stay updated with fresh content and exciting updates. Unlock exclusive access to new videos and insights. Don't miss out. Hit like and never miss a thing. Subscribe today and let's embark on this adventure together.